Participation-wise, Larry Murchison will be limited. Ernest Jones will be limited. Byron Young will be limited. Rush Yeast and Ben Skoranek. But they'll be limited. Don't expect that to affect their game status. Laro is somebody that, he's been out the last couple weeks with his knee, so we'll see. And then also, what a blessing, had our little boy yesterday, Jordan John McVay. And so mom and baby are doing good and ready to get back at it. And she gets to take care of all the fun stuff right now. So, no, it's what a blessing, what a cool thing, but we're excited about getting ready for the Cowboys.
How are you doing personally?
Yeah, I'm doing really well. It's everybody kind of tells you what to expect, Jordan, and it couldn't even be, as good as everybody says. And they certainly, talked about what a special moment it was, and just amazing, how well my wife handled it and what a stud she was throughout that whole process, and even yesterday. And, the people, were amazing in terms of the nurses and the doctors and their help. So he's here, he's healthy, he's feeling good, and what a blessing it is. And it was cool to be able to see, my parents are in town, so they were able to meet him and my cousin Emma, and came over yesterday. And so I look forward to reconvening with them later today after we handle our stuff.
Have you gotten any sleep?
No. It's a good adrenaline, but it's at some point it's gonna hit me, and I'd like to think I can push through, but I don't have the stamina that I used to.
It's the flight to Dallas.
What's that? Yeah, exactly. I'll be out right away.
Congratulations, Sean.
Thank you.
What was when you looked in your son's eyes for the first time? What was that like?
Man, I feel bad. You look more like your dad than your mom. No, it's wild. I don't think you can even put words to it. And you guys know that have kids. It's a special thing. And he's really alert and going through that process. But, when you talk about even the changes in those couple hours, it's amazing just, how much goes on. And I'm sure everybody feels that way. But it's a real blessing.
You guys are having kickers in Veronika. How's his leg?
Yeah, you know what? It's good to be able to have, Lucas is a guy that we ended up signing. We'll bring him in here and see how he does. Had a couple other guys that we worked out, as possibilities. And the other thing, too, is want to thank Brett Maher for his contributions. I do think that it wouldn't be accurate to, honestly assess that he's been a really good kicker for a long time, handled himself with pure class, did a good job. There were some tough situations that I put him in that doesn't go lost on me. It's not exclusively, anytime you just look at some of these things, it's gratitude, appreciation, recognition for the good things that he did. And then it wasn't like easy spots that he was put in with some of these 50-yarders. Had as many field goals made going into week 7 as anybody in the league with 2 other kickers. And so there was a lot of good things. It wasn't like a for sure decision, but it was something that we felt like was the best decision. Whether or not it ends up being the right one, you try to weigh the factors and you try to be as accurate with those assessments as possible. But we'll continue to monitor that, and that's a really important position for us because of the amount of points that go through those guys' legs and, how tight these games are, especially when you look at our first 7 games. And, every single point really matters. And, and I've got to do a good job of making sure I'm putting our guys in the right spots to be successful, and very grateful and appreciative of what Brett did do through the first 7 games.
Are you? Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying, on that note, this year it was pretty apparent publicly and all that with the economical limitations.
Sure.
Sometimes with Matt and the position in general going younger, and then maybe that minimum, those types of things. How do you weigh that when you also are thinking about your own decision making, aggressiveness on 4th down? You guys have a great conversion rate, but haven't gone for it.
Yeah, it's a good question, because a lot of those things were things that I was very intentional, and you still are. And there were some situations the other day where, the one thing that you wish you'd maybe given yourself a chance is a little bit more efficiency, whether it's, making the play on the 2nd and 9 and then on 3rd and 9, not feeling like you got to get it all back. They did a good job rushing, but maybe making a decision, do you go for it on 4th down, or you get it a little bit easier attempt from inside of 50. And so absolutely, those are things that we weigh. And, going into it with the anticipation that we were having a rookie kicker, it was definitely something that's on your mind. It didn't go lost on me when we did get Brett, but he did have one of those situations and circumstances where his range was a thing that benefits us. And so each week, entails a little bit different approach. And I think when you get to those situations, all right, how do you call third down? What does that get you to where you're deeming it? All right, this is where we're going to go for it, or we feel like we're going to kick it. And a lot of those things are predicated on, the stadium that you're at. And SoFi entails an operation where it's clean, it's an indoor, if you will, basically because of, the weather doesn't end up being a factor in regards to how the stadium is set up. And so ultimately, all of that being said, there's a lot of things that go into it, and those are things that you want to consistently and intentionally be better about for our team. And that's an exact conversation that I've had with myself and with other members of the staff as we move forward.
Are you apprehensive at all going with a kicker that has not kicked in a regular season NFL game?
You know what? You got to start somewhere, right? You look at all of these guys, had to be able to get their experience somewhere. And so I don't think that can make you gun shy. I think you want to be realistic about some of those spots, similar to what Jordan was asking there, Gary. And so I think we'll evaluate how the week goes. We'll see how Lucas does. Got a couple other guys that you potentially look at via practice squad spots, and then we'll make the best decision as it relates to how we approach Dallas.
How did you guys as a staff identify Lucas as someone you want to bring in?
Really what it boils down to is there's a lot of trust and confidence in Chase and Jeremy Springer. Those guys spend a lot of time studying the landscape of the league, having dialogue with the specialists. It's a close-knit fraternity, and so in a lot of those instances, there's a good dialogue, but a deference and a deferral to those guys based on their studies and their nuanced understanding of what the league looks like as it relates to the kicker position.
And just as a quick follow-up to that, what I guess was the feedback from them as far as why you made a lot of sense?
Well, I think, a lot of the potential, a lot of the talent, in terms of, when you talk about as a quarterback, the ball jumping off of a guy's hand and being able to throw consistent spiral, changing trajectories, this is the same thing that you talk about, consistent ball flight, immediate height, consistency with the approach and a lot of the things that you like when you go back to his career at Arizona. And, they had liked him in Cleveland. Matt Gay's feedback, was something that weighed into it as well, based on, him being around him in Indianapolis. And so all of those factors are things that go into it. I mean, when we got Matt Gay, that was because, Jake McQuaid ended up bringing him up to me. And, he and Johnny Hecker end up really just in Zerline, they say, we recognize this guy and, the talent, the ability is there. And, give old Jake McQuaid a shout out for that. And Matt's doing a great job.
This may seem like a silly question because when Matthew came here, he was such a fully formed veteran quarterback. But in what ways have you seen him evolve since he arrived in LA?
I think the best are always evolving, Adam. And no matter how long your experience is, just figuring out ways to be able to add to your arsenal and elevate those around you. And I think that's what he's done as well as anybody in regards to he's bringing guys with him. He's helping pick up the acceleration and the learning process for some of these skill players that he's playing with. One of my favorite plays the other day, I think you're seeing him just find different ways to just compete at a really high level. He's always been known as this great, tough, elite competitor, and he certainly is that. But when you see a 3rd down and 7 and you're up 7 points, towards the latter part of the 3rd quarter, and your quarterback on 3rd and 7 steps up, in and out, we get a good pickup on a nickel blitz, and he's diving for a 1st down to get 8 yards, and you watch the emotion on the sideline. That was a turning point in the game where we had to be able to capitalize on those moments that he created to be able to finish that and come away with either a field goal or go up 2 scores in that situation. But either way, you're up 10 or you're up 14, and I think that changes the whole landscape of the game. But I just think it's the competitiveness, it's the nuanced understanding of, as the landscape of the league changes coverage-wise, it becomes cyclical, but he's just getting better and better. And, obviously the ability is amazing, but elevating people and then just the way that his play does the talking, I think is as special as anything he's doing.
Is there anything you've learned about offense at the NFL level from working with him?
Well, I just think, the way that he sees the game, it's one thing to be on the sideline watching. It's another thing to be accepting the snap, making all the calls, the communication, recognizing, all right, do I need to be picked up? Am I picked up in this look? All right, what am I working through as it relates to the progression? So I think it's more than anything, it's just the consistent dialogue, being able to talk to him about, all right, what does he see? the things that he's able to see and communicate that he sees in real time. I'm not talking about when you get in on Monday after everybody's watched the film or you've already seen it and you can have a convenient narrative for what ended up happening. I'm talking about in real time. He's as good as I've ever seen in regards to the immediate feedback, what he saw, what he was thinking, and man, does that make that fun to be able to work with. And the amount of information that he's able to absorb, whether it be pre-snap or post-snap, is one of the things that makes him a really special player that's done it as good as anybody in this game.
Couple more
Sean,
guys.
Is Jordan's middle name after your grandfather? And if so, what did that mean to you?
It is, yeah. His original due date was, it's kind of eerie how things work out. His original due date was, when my grandfather passed a year ago on the 31st, which is, pretty special. And if you don't believe in a higher power, there's certain things that occur that, man, you realize there's something special going on. And, I'm a family, come from a family of faith. I'm a man of faith. And so thought that was really, the influence that you guys know my grandfather had on me, but also our family. He had a special relationship with Veronika as well. And so thought that was only appropriate, to be able to name him, have his middle name after my grandfather. And, his legacy lives on. And I know he's looking down smiling, with what occurred yesterday. Meant a lot.
I just wanted to ask, we talk a lot with other coaches about preparing for Aaron Donald, and you've talked about it, Raheem talks about it, but you're going against Micah Parsons. So as the offensive brain trust, how do you deal with a guy like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's similar. They do a great job of being able to move him around, but, they got other great players too. It's not, Micah's an amazing player, and the versatility and the ability to play on either edge. I mean, they'll line him up sometimes at nose. He's playing an off-the-ball backer, but he's a special player. His twitch, his overall athleticism, his ability to close and be a finisher. I mean, that's what these best players in the league are. They're finishers, and that's what he is. I think DeMarcus Lawrence is a guy that I can even remember. He's been doing it for a long time. My first year when we go play there in week 4, where he really just started to hit his stride. And you're saying, who's this guy out of Boise that's a baller? And the consistency, Ed and Dirday does such a great job with their D-line and Dan Quinn. But Micah, DeMarcus Lawrence, he's Dante Fowler still making his plays in a lot of these situations. And they got interior depth, and it's a plethora of guys that they're rotating in and out that do a great job of influencing a lot of problems for offenses. And so, we'll have to see. It's something that we're working through. And, as excited as I was yesterday, then once you really dive into the tape, you're thinking, man, maybe I should have stayed at the hospital, Gary. All right. Thanks, guys.